Hello, welcome to the second part of this series of making your own game in Codea. This is a beginner's guide. So in this episode, we'll basically be making this knight move. And you see this coin over here? Yeah, we're going to add a coin. Of course, not in this episode. We can't we can't actually collect it in this episode. But in the next one, we will. But one thing you can notice is that you can go in front of the coin and you can go in front of the coin and then you can go behind the coin. So this is what we're gonna write in this episode. The Sprite animator, we're gonna import using something called the repo. There's a Sprite animator there, so we're gonna use that Sprite animator. The reason why we're not making our own is because it's a little bit complicated for a beginner guide. So we're just gonna use the one that's in the repo, and it's gonna teach you quite a lot on how to get certain projects and extra stuff on from the repo, so which can be useful for your next future projects. So yeah, let's get started. Before we get started, well, first thing I want to do is download the web repo. The reason why we're going to download this is so that we can import the animator and an extra class which will help us in the game development of this game. So basically, you want to go to the Codea website by typing up codea.io and then clicking on Codea Talks. And now we want to do is search up web repo. Web repos basically houses a lot of projects, and you basically want to click on this web repo. From this, click on the web repo 2.0. You'll be prompted to be down here. You want to scroll down to the bottom one, and now you click on latest web repo project, and it will prompt a download. You click download, and you'll see, as you see here, it's downloaded to the files. Next thing you want to do is open up the file. As I see, I went to file app. I just cut it. I can go to file apps, and you basically share. You click and hold and share, and I have Codea in front, but usually you won't. So you'll have to usually scroll down and click on more, and then you'll see Codea. When you click on Codea, it'll launch the Codea app, and then you want to click this button to import the web repo and click and then you click import, and it should add the web repo right over here. So that is how you add the web repo to your Codea projects. Now that we've opened the web repo from the files and we've loaded it up to Codea, let's open the project. So what you want to do is you want to run it, and when you run it, you will see a bunch of projects just come in. Sometimes it takes a while, but right now it was pretty short. So one thing you want to search up, it's right in the front, but you might not see it. In my view, it's right in front, but you might not see it. So what you want to type up is Sprite animator, and you see this one, the one we saw in the front, and you want to click on get to get the Sprite animator. It should load installed, and you want to go on entity plus, type up entity and then plus, and you see this one. You download it and see it was installed, and now it should be able to be on your projects. If you go and close, you'll see Sprite animator and entity plus. These are the two projects you'll see in the front after downloading the web repo. So now that we've imported the Sprite animator and the entity the entity plus class, we can now import them into our project. So open up the old projects you had before, and this is the old one. So if we run it, you should just see the circle moving. And now what we're going to do is that we're going to add these two functions, this function, the require function. Basically, this is going to allow us to include those functions we had. So you want to do require assets.iCloud. Well, not really iCloud, but let me change it up a little bit. So you want to do assets.document. Since you're using it, it will probably be in documents unless you put it in iCloud. So it would be assets.documents.sprite animator or assets.documents.entity plus, and then you'll be able to import these two files. So now what we have to know about the entity plus is that the entity plus system basically means that we cannot use this way of running our functions as we did before, because it won't work, because that's the entity plus basically removes that feature, but it adds another feature. So what we have to do is we have to run this function manually. So what we're going to do is we're going to do gameworld.update delta time.delta, and then gameworld.draw. Basically, it's going to allow us to draw the scene we have right there. And what we also have to do is do function touched basically allowing us to check for touches. Though this might not be that important since we don't have touch, but it's just a good thing to add when you're adding your projects. This for the entity plus. So basically you're going to add this method, and this will allow us to basically add the touch and basically allow us to add draw and update all the methods. So if you run the project right now, you should see nothing. That's exactly what's precise, because in the entity plus it requires you to add a start method at the bottom. Basically you allow this start method will be the part where you start the scene, and it will allow you to add extra functions like a start function before when the scene starts. So if you run it again with the start method, you should see everything, and everything should be working as fine as before. Sorry, this is a quick break, but I think there's a little error while I was recording. But what you want to do is next is that you want to go and delete the shape renderer. I removed it already and I can't really undo it, but you want to delete the one that says shape renderer, and you want to delete the file of the shape renderer by clicking the shape render file, not the movement but the shape renderer one, and clicking delete, or you can just leave it there regardless. But the least thing you want to do is remove the function here. And what we want to go is Safari, and basically look up this dungeon and gathering asset pack. This is the asset pack we're going to use to basically make our games. And we're not gonna use the paid version but the free version, so you just click no thanks. Unless you want to pay for it, you can help the developers, but to make this tutorial accessible for everyone, we're just gonna use the free assets. And now we're gonna download it. We download the version, and what we're gonna do now is that we're gonna just basically go from an R to zip converter. Basically we cannot actually read iPad can't read R files. They only can just read zip, so we have to convert it to a zip file. So just click on that selected file from the download function, and we're gonna download this one and add it. Now we're gonna convert it and download. And now our zip file, it should be in our zip file, and we should be able to open it. So now that we've imported it, what we want to do is that we're going to open the file of the night, and we'll see all these images. We'll go back to Codea, and we're going to go to Sprite. We're going to import file, and we're going to go to the file, the place where we stored it, and we're going to go and import night run idle, and we're going to open that one. Idle is how we're gonna use it, and we're gonna go back and type up to that place we stored it, and we're gonna get the run, and we're basically going to import the run, use this one. And you'll see now both of them are here. So what we're gonna do is that we're gonna add an animator so that we can see the animation of the character. So we're gonna go to player. No, not player. We're gonna type up local animator is equal to player add sprite animator. Basically just gonna add a sprite animator component and set it to 12 frames per second, and then put true. Basically this true means, is it gonna be like a pixel art type of vibe, and I'm gonna say yes. So now that we have an animator, we're gonna set the sheet of the animator. So we're gonna go set sheet, and we're gonna open up the assets, the blue night.run. And we're basically going to set the set sheet function. Basically takes in the asset file like path, which we set over here, and it also takes in the size of each individual animation, which is a 16 by 17 animation, so 16 pixels by 17 pixels. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna click on the add from function. This add from function basically tells us where we're going to add from. So let me explain what I mean by add from. So we're gonna go back to that file area, And if I go to that run animation, let me zoom in so that you can see. You see that there's basically, you know, a whole line of animations. And basically what this animation is gonna do is that we're gonna like take a little segment from what segment do we want. So now first we divided it into 16 by 9, so we know like each grid is going to be this wide. So we got to know from what position are we going to take it from. So from this position to this position we want to make an animation from. That's what the add from means. So from that position to that position, or from this position to that position, that's what the add from is going to do. I'm going to open Codea. I don't know, it seemed to have crashed. I think the recording just keeps crashing this Codea app of mine. Now I have to rewrite everything I wrote. But basically, we're gonna write what you wrote again. So players that add sprite animator 12 and then true. Basically, we're gonna add that, and then we're gonna set the animation as we did before. And blue knife dot run, and then we're gonna set it back to what I said, 16 by 17 for the run. That's the size of the file. And then add from, which we were doing before it crashed, is that we're gonna do the right run. We'll do the right run first. So the right run, basically this is gonna be the run for the right. And basically what we're gonna add from, you know, what we said before, from the right one goes from basically the column, the second column, and the first one, like the first animation. And next one is gonna do is the second column and the 8th one. Since there are 8 frames, it's basically going to be 8 frames long. That's why it's from number 1 to number 8, and it's on the second row. That's what it's from, and that's going to give us the add from the animation. So what we're going to do is that we're going to play this animation. I'm going to say play animator.play. You can put it in a different line or the same line. So I'm going to put it in a different line, in the same line, and basically going to play that right run we had before. And we're gonna click play. Oh, it's pretty small. So what we're gonna do is that we're gonna go and set the size of the character. Oh no, actually, what are we gonna do? So we're gonna change this from 16 to 14. And this is the awful size. We're gonna change it from 24 to 14. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna set it from 64 pixels to 16 pixels. Basically, what we're gonna do is that we're gonna change from that circle style we had before. See, before we could just use 64, but now we're doing pixel art. We're gonna change it to the actual, you know, the amount of pixels per unit, and pixels each unit, and which is 16, since it's a 16 by 16 type of sprite. So we're gonna run this one, and it should, yeah, you should see the whole animation working very fine. And just use your animation. You see how it's kind of going pretty fast, but it's kind of cool that you'll be able to run, you know, see a sprite running. So next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna basically allow it to change directions, you know, make the sprite move. So let's do that. Okay, now we're back. So basically what we're gonna do is that we're gonna go and add this file. You can delete this original animator we did. These lines of code, that's what I meant. We can delete it, and you see these lines of code added. This one is just basically gonna allow us to have the up, down, right direction of the run, and the up, down direction of the idle. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna go in that movement class we just had before, and we're gonna make a little bit of an upgrade to basically change it up. So we have the speed. What we're gonna do now is we're gonna add a facing direction. Basically, this facing direction is going to be which way we're facing. So the first one we're gonna basically be facing is down, because I just want you to be facing downwards. And the next one is movement state, the move state. This is basically going to allow us to see like if it's running or if it's idle. So if you see the names of it, you'll see that it's called down run or down idle or down, you know, all that stuff. The reason why is that we're going to use the direction, basically the facing direction, and then the movement state to get the right animation to call. That's what the facing direction and the movement state is going to do. And basically what we're going to do is we're going to get that animator component inside here. So we're gonna go and add the animator. We're gonna get the animator component we had before. So we're gonna get it, into Sprite animator. And now that we have the animator, what we're gonna do is that we're going to basically change some stuff around. So if we're pressing right, if we're pressing the D key, that means we're going right. So we're gonna change the facing direction to be right. And for the left one, basically you do left. And for the other one, you do up, because this one is in up direction. And for the other one, you're gonna do downwards. So now we've basically changed the facing direction based on what the key we're pressing. And basically what we wanna do is that we wanna use like this system, like we know what direction it's facing, and we basically want to adjust the animation based on, if it's, left or right or something like that. So what we're gonna do is that we're gonna go and type up if it's not moving. This line basically is when it's not moving. We're gonna set the move state to be idle. And for this one over here, we're basically going to make the move state to be run. Move state is going to equal to run. So now we have the run and the idle. So but how we're going to change the animation? So what we're going to do is we're going to add a function called called adjust animation. So what you want to do is you want to do character movement. This is basically talking about character movement. We got to change the name of the function, the class, to become character movement. We're going to change it from movement to character movement. So, it can be more similar. So it can be like better representation of the thing. So we're going to do character movement adjust animator. This adjust animator is basically going to allow us to adjust the animation based on the viewing direction. So the adjust animator, we're gonna play an animation, and what we're gonna do, what animation we're gonna play. So what we're gonna do is actually gonna play it from the facing direction, whatever direction is facing, and the move state. So basically, what this a double period is doing is basically uniting the words together. So suppose the facing direction is up and the move state is idle, it'll basically just be up idle, which is going to play the up idle animation here. This is the animation is going to play. So if we run the code, or we have to change, let's change the name of the file from movement to character movement. So I'm going to change it to character movement. Everything should be changed here, I believe so. And we're gonna have to change it over here because there's no such thing as movement anymore. Character movement, and we should run and it should work. So we have right. Oh, nothing's changing. Oh, did we write the right one? Sorry for the cut. So I found the bug. Basically, we didn't add the actual function inside of the animator in the class. So what we're going to do is self.adjust animation. So that character movement function over here, basically what this is going to do is just going to refer to the class, because we need to be able to get the class. That's why we have a colon. Basically this character movement colon is basically saying in this class, for the adjust animator, for the character movement, we're gonna have a function called adjust animation, and here we're calling the adjust animation by clicking self.colon, not the dot as you saw before, but colon, so we can actually put this self stuff inside. And basically if we were going to call functions, we're going to use a colon keyword, not really the dot. And now if we run the project, it should work. And you see how things are moving. The night is having a little bit of a field day, but You see the knight's kind of going a little bit fast, so we're going to adjust the movement of the knight. And let's say to 4. And now you see that the knight is, having a nice little run, and it's pretty fun. So the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna add that coin you saw. Actually, no. Next thing we're gonna do is we're going to change the actual physics of the knight, because if you look around, you see that the knight is actually having a circle collider. You thought you didn't see me properly, but basically I just added that physics debug to basically see the actual inside of the physics. It has a circle, which is not really what we want. We want to have a square for that one. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take that physics collider, gonna move this, that physics collider, we're gonna add some space in between them. And basically what we're gonna do is that we're gonna go and add the collider. We're gonna add physics body dot dynamic, and we're gonna change it from a circle collider to a box collider. So we're gonna have a box collider. Basically, this is gonna be a rectangle type of collider, and we're gonna do player dot world size. Basically, this is gonna get the size from the world. That's what the entity plus adds. It gets the ability to get the size in world space, not in actual real space, but world space, and divided by 2. Because what we want to do is let me actually not divide it by 2 and just keep it how it is. If we run it, we should see that it has a nice box, but one thing is that I want the box to be a little bit down here. I don't want it to be on the top, because I want it to be able to interact with the coin later on. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna divide it by 2, so it could be half the size of the actual thing. And what we're gonna do now is just gonna add that inside of a variable, because it's an actual variable it returns. So what we're gonna do is gonna add the collider variable. And what we're gonna do, if we run this project again, you'll see that the box is a little small, but what we wanna do is we wanna bring that box a little bit downwards. So we're gonna go and basically take that collider, center, and basically we're gonna move it down by just a quarter of the whole, the whole size of the whole entity. So we're gonna do vex2 dot 0, because for the x vec we don't want to move the x, so we're just going to move the y. Player world size, as I said before, to get the size of the world space, and we're going to get the y of the world size, and we're going to divide it by 4, because we only want to move it slightly by a fourth of the size. And we're going to run it, and you should see that it's half the size, and it's down at the bottom. So when we're doing collisions next, we could be able to have a proper collision when we're doing our top-down view. So one thing we also want to do is we want to make the body fixed so that it can't rotate, because we don't want rotation with our body. So fixed rotation, we're going to set to be true, basically making it that we can't move, rotate our body. Next thing we're going to do is that we're going to add the coin. So the coin you saw in the beginning of the video, that coin, the way we're gonna add it is basically by going into the dungeon stuff, because we only downloaded the character controller. We need to now download the map builder. So we're going to download it, and the same way you saw us, we're just going to basically download and go back and convert, again. That same file we had before, that dungeons, this one, that, and we're gonna convert it to a zip, and now you download it, and it should go to the zip, and we'll open the file. Okay, now that we've downloaded it, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna do the same thing. We'll open it, and we'll see a bunch of tile sets. These are just to build the map. We won't be building a map with this series. We'll just be making a simple little game with it. Though we will use simple the tile sets only a little bit, but not in this one. We're just gonna build something because it's a beginner tutorial. But this is the one we should be interested in. This coin sheet you saw over here. Coin sheet. This one is basically going to allow us to have the coins, you saw that coin flying around. So we're gonna add that coin sheet. So we're gonna go back to Codea. And it opened it. No, this one. Go back to the project you were on before, and go to assets, tutorial, game, and we're gonna go to the files and go to that place we had before. Go to the files, go to basically that place where we downloaded the things, the dungeon editor, and now we're gonna go and click on coin sheet. We're gonna open the coin sheet and use coin sheet, and now we added the coin sheet. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna add a coin object over. So what we're gonna do is add coin is equal to game world. We're gonna make a new object dot entity, and we're gonna call it coin. And this coin is going to basically have an X position of 5 and a Y position of -2. Basically, we're gonna move it to the right 5, down 2, so that we don't intercept over. And now we're gonna use that animator, the same animator. We're just going to assign it to another animator. So we're gonna add a component for the coin and add a sprite animator. And we're gonna add 12, true. And we're gonna basically now do the same thing we did before and set the sheet to be now that new sheet we had before is gonna be assets.coin sheet. And we're gonna now do 16 by 16. And Codea, if you want to make both of the variables, like instead of doing 16 by 16 like this, you could just put 16 and it'll make both of them 16. So we're gonna set both of them, and we're gonna add, basically we're gonna do active, and we're gonna do add from coin, sorry for the background noise, and active. Basically this is going to make a new animation from that the top one actual. So we're going to do from the top row. The top row is the one spinning. So if we take a look at it and look at this, we should see that the top one from number 1, from like 1-1 to 1-8, basically is going to be the one spinning. This one is when it's destroyed. We'll add that in the next episode. So we're going to go back and we're going to do from 1-1 all the way to 1-8, and basically that's going to do what it's doing. And what we're going to do is just basically play that animation. Wrong one. Animator.play, and it should work. Hopefully it does. The first, oh no, we need to actually write the animation we're gonna play. Hopefully it worked for the first time, and it should work. Sorry, I don't know why it's not running. It looks like it's frozen on me. Sorry about that. It seems that it crashed the Codea project. So one thing we're gonna right now, Codea isn't really that, I would say that I'm using the modern version for this tutorial, but it's not as stable as the legacy version. So, but in the future, probably in your version when you're using it, it would probably be a lot more stable because there'll be a lot of bug fixes. But I'm using like the beta, so which will basically be your future. So basically, we're gonna go back to what we add. We add the animator, and we're gonna play the coin active, and we're gonna run the project. You should see that the coin is now spinning, which is very cool. And what we want to do is that we want to go and add a collider for that coin, because we need to be able to collide with that coin. So we're going to add the coin collider and basically add a physics 2D, and going to add another body, and we're going to make a dynamic. And basically we're gonna add a box, and this is going to basically be the size of the coin in world space divided by 2. So basically, the reason why we're dividing by 2 is, remember, as I said before, we want it to be in the bottom of the character, not at the, because as I said before, if we just left it like this, it would just make it, you know, the big size. We want to keep it at the bottom. So we're going to basically divide by 2. And collider center, we're going to move it down, you know, as we did before. We're going to move the center down to be 0 coin world size. And basically we're going to divide it by 4 because we want to just make it a little bit like a fourth of the way down, not really all the way down. Basically the same thing we wrote over here, we're going to translate it back there, basically move it down a little bit. And we're going to basically make the rotation fixed. As we wrote over there, a fixed rotation. And basically we're going to run it. As you see, we can move that coin, which is interesting, but we don't want to be able to move the coin. Only for this episode, all we want to do is we want to be able to walk through the coin. So we're going to add, we're going to do something special, is we're going to use that collider we had before, that box collider, and go collider.sensor, and we're going to set it to true. Sensor basically means that can it be passed through. If it's true, that means you can pass through it, and it's like acting like a sensor. It only senses if it's being touched, but it doesn't actually, you know, respond to any of the touches. You can't push it, but it can detect if it's touched, like a real sensor. You can go through it, but it won't push the sensor. But it would just, you know, it can detect if you're there. So what it would do is that it would just basically allow us to go through it. It is adding it as a collision, but you won't, you know, it won't go through it. You won't be able to push it around, which is a good thing. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna remove this, you know, debug physics we had before. And if we see a problem, you see that we can walk, like the player is always behind the coin, no matter what, which is pretty uncool. What we want to do is from the beginning, you can go to behind and front. So what we need to do is implement a Z sorter. So what we're going to do is we're going to add another entity called a Z sorter in this game world dot entity Z sorter, and Z sorter, and we're going to add a component which we don't have now called Z sorter component. So what we're going to do is go and add that component. So we're going to do class Z sorter, and we're going to Z sorter, and boom. Now what we're going to do is we do as always, we're going to change this init to created. Maybe in the future it would be created, but for now in my version it always goes to init. So just make sure you have created and top, and the next one is an update, and get rid of that touched. So created and update is what we need. Well, we don't really need to create it, just the update. So what we're going to do is we're going to do something interesting. We're going to basically store all the Sprite entities, because there are a bunch of entities out there. There are, you know, this one, this is considered an entity. The camera, there's a camera, you don't see it, but there's a camera. The scene has a camera, and that's considered an entity. But all we want is we just want ones with sprites. So what we're going to do is that we're going to go and make a list. This is going to make a list of Sprite entities. Sprite entities, and we're going to make that equal to that. And what we're going to do is we're going to go from every scene of the entity, every entity of the scene. What we're going to do is we're going to get all the entities of that scene. So we're going to do this in I pairs scene entities. I'll explain what's happening later on. And do boom. So did I type it right? I don't know. Oh, I took two ends. So what we're doing is that this K is we're basically looping over all the entities. I pairs is an interesting way Lua basically gets all the entities of a certain significant, like, this is a list. So scene.entity, this scene, self.scene basically gets the scene of which the entity is part of, which is just gonna get the game world scene as we saw there. So that self.scene here is the game world, but we're gonna get all the entities in that world. But one interesting thing, so this is gonna be a list of things, is that in Lua, a great way of getting a list is by adding an I pairs. You can search it up, but basically if for more information. But what it does is it basically gets the whole list of everything and allows us to split it apart into what order it is in the list. So if it's number 1, number 2, which is K, and the value of the list, which is the entity itself. So we're going to change it to probably be something like reasonable for int. No, I can't say entity, because then if you write entity, then you'll have to, there's already a keyword for that, so we'll just leave it as int. So what we're going to do is f.int .sprite, then we're going to add to the table that sprite entity over here. We're going to insert it. We're going to basically add to the list of sprite entities. We're going to add that entity to this list of sprite entities. So what does, you saw me saying if sprite, you might be wondering, what is this trying to do? Basically, it's trying to say, does it have a sprite component? Does this exist? Does sprite exist in this entity? You know, for this one, the animator has a sprite, so it exists. But you know, for the Z sorter, which is also an entity, it doesn't have a sprite, so it won't exist. It doesn't exist. So it would basically skip over that Z sorter, but allow the knight and the coin to pass through. And now we added it into the list of sprite entities. The next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna go and sort. So this table.sort is going to be very interesting. This is basically going to allow us to, you know, do that Z sorting we saw before. So we're going to add all the sprite entities. So sort basically allows us to sort the order of everything from, like, you know, a list. We want to be able to sort it so that we can have the ones that are down below, the entities that are down below the most. That one should be, what do you say, first into the list. No, the one in the top should be first into the list, so we can draw them last, and the ones at the bottom should be in the last of the list, so we can draw them first, meaning that we'll be able to draw, you know, search in order. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna now add a function. So this sort takes in a function, and it's gonna be an interesting function we're gonna write down. So this function is basically, we're gonna add if sprite. It does have a sprite. We're gonna do return. Oh, sorry, I forgot. The function takes in 2 parameters, which is because we're gonna compare these 2 entities together. So we're gonna do sprite 1 and sprite 2. So if we're comparing 2 entities now, we're gonna compare these 2 entities. Let's think of sprite 1 as the knight and the sprite 2 as the coin. We're gonna basically, what we're gonna do is we're gonna check if the knight, the Y position of the knight minus the, you know, Y world position size minus 2 divided by 2, Y.2. So that's, and we're gonna compare it with the coins one. If we have more, and we're gonna change this sprite 1 to sprite 2, sprite 2. So everything should be working perfectly. So one thing, what's happening is that we're taking the Y position, but the Y position is in the center. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna move the Y position down below. As you saw, if we have a square, the origin is at the center. What we're doing is by minusing it by the world side, is that we're moving it down here. We're trying to compare the bottom part of the thing. We're comparing the size and basically putting the ones who are on the most on top, we're gonna put them first, and the ones that are the least, like on the bottom, we're gonna put them last, so we can render them last. Like have a higher, like, you know, a sort order. And basically what we're gonna do is we're gonna take this beautiful list we had, and we're gonna take K and value, I pairs. So we're gonna loop over this, the same sprite entities. After we've sorted it, we've sorted the entities into, the right order. We're now going to do something special. We're gonna do, I don't know, let me change it to something very, int for entity. So int dot sort order. So each, entity has a sort. If you have a sprite, it has a sort order. Basically, a sort order is basically whatever comes first. Ones with negative, I don't know why it's spelled this way, but the ones with negative are the ones that are drawn first, and the ones in positive are drawn last. So basically, this will allow us to draw the ones on the top is going to be drawn with a more positive number, and the ones who are on behind, is going to have a more negative number later on in the list. That's why I said we're going to put the ones on top in the first of the list, and then the ones on the bottom we're going to put them later on in the list, because the ones later on in the list will have a negative number, and we run, and hopefully it should work. Yes, as you see that we have the knight, we can go right behind the knight and the coin, and here we can go in front of the coin. So yes, Z sorter is working. It's basically allowing us to sort the entities into order so that it can work properly and things working just fine, which is a very good thing. So I believe this is the end of the episode. So thanks for watching. So for the next episode, what we're gonna do is basically allow us to collect the coin and not just make this coin be spinning and going around in circles, which is not really that fun. What we want to be able to do is also collect that coin. And there'll probably be a lot of changes coming in. I'm trying on making an editor, so that might be coming in. Sorry for these tutorials not being so professional. It's just my first time making tutorials, so I just make it this way it is. So just have fun, being able to walk around. And one thing you could do for a challenge is just spawn a bunch of coins around and place it there. Well, but in the editor I plan on making, it would allow you to spawn it yourself, spawn using a map editor instead, because we don't have tiled. Tiled is basically a level editor you can use to level, but it's on PC, and we don't really have not everybody here has a PC. I'll still use the PC, but we're gonna use basically I'm gonna make an editor. I'm gonna use this editor to make a little fun map. Instead of having this random boring circle, we're gonna have a map we can go around. But this is gonna be probably in part 4. But in part 3, what we're gonna do is collect the coins and add to a score. That's basically just all we're gonna add for part 3. So thanks for watching. Subscribe and have fun coding Codea.